We have a few things to get through today, the sort of formal business of the AGM and the sort of election of positions. We'll probably rattle through those relatively quickly and then get to sort of the more interesting bit, which is kind of a slightly broader discussion of the direction of the group and so on. We kick off each year with some chair's remarks, which means that I'm afraid you're going to have to listen to me for a little bit. So I'll circulate this document with the AGM minutes, so Samir doesn't need to scribble and type all this down. But just to say, it's been a really exciting and productive year for the group. And obviously, I want to start by thanking everyone who's made it a success. The people who came to our events and took part in those, obviously our membership and our sort of dedicated and incredibly hard-working committee. A lot of the things which I'm going to talk about in my little report here, I didn't do, the committee did. And we very much had this as quite a democratic setup of various subcommittees sitting and leading on different activities. So I'm absolutely not claiming credit for any of this, but I'm very grateful for the hard work of the committee putting these activities together. So just a few edited highlights, and then from me, and then others will give more detail in the other elements of the reporting process for the AGM. And then we've got some time at the end to talk about more general things, direction of the group, and the kind of activities that colleagues would like to see us pushing forward over the next couple of years. In terms of what we've been up to this year, it's been a kind of a continuation of some initiatives and then a development of a couple of new ones. So, for example, we had our regular annual symposium that was once again held online, and really has had the distinct advantage of allowing us to be a lot more inclusive of people who can't afford to travel to a more of an in-person event. And obviously that's something that we can pick up in the discussion at the end as to how we want to take forward symposia in future as COVID restrictions begin to loosen a little. This year's symposium was organised by a subcommittee led by Tess Osborne and was framed around exploring the emerging research agendas within digital geographies, and that sort of feeds into an edited collection that Edward Elgar got in touch with the group asking us to put together as part of its A Research Agenda 4 series, and that's due to come out in late 2022, early 2023. Tess is in the middle of putting together that collection, drawing on the papers from the symposium, and speakers from around the world, people coming in and out throughout the day as they sort of relate to different time zones, which was quite fun. I have to give huge credit to our postgraduate reps, Jack Lowe and Daisy Curtis, who've done an absolutely amazing job this year, not least with how they put together the sessions for the RGS midterms. And they're going to say a little bit more about their activities in their report later on. But just stunning work from the pair of them. They've worked together with our events coordinator, Max Mutanda, and putting together our sort of new sort of work in progress series, our digital shorts work in progress series, which is an opportunity for people to put together short videos, which we're promoting through our new YouTube channel, because it's kind of forced us to actually finally set up a proper YouTube channel, and thanks to Jack for doing the lead on that and actually drawing together some of the dispersed video material that we've put together over the years and actually putting it all into the one YouTube channel. So for those of you who don't know about the digital shorts format, it's something we've been doing for a number of years now, giving an opportunity to present an audience with a sort of taster of work, which is a bit of an earlier stage of development. It's proved really popular with early career scholars and and some of us who are a bit later along as well. Myself and Jeremy have done some of these too. So it's just the opportunity to actually get a piece of work out there which maybe isn't as fully developed as other things we publish in more conventional ways. So we're regularly releasing these short format talks via our YouTube channel. So the usual thing of like, comment, subscribe. I feel like an influencer now. And obviously watch our Twitter feed for the latest videos. We have 13, I think, sponsored sessions at this year's RGS IBG. Some of them were held over from last year's conference, some new for this year. Really interesting selection of things, and a big thank you to Tess and Jeremy, who sort of led the process of allocating the group's sponsorship slot. So we're really excited to have loaned our support to these great sessions. One of the new activities for this year, along with the work in progress initiative, was the Undergraduate Dissertation Prize. And again, a huge thank you to Doug Specht for sort of sorting this out. It's something we talked about previously, but Doug has come along and actually made it happen, which is brilliant. We had an anonymous donation a little while ago, which sort of has formed the basis of our prize fund, which is going to cover the prize fund for a little while as our resources build up as a research group. Had 9 submissions this year, that's the first year running the prize. I've covered a range of topics from vlogging, dance, gaming, and spicy chicken wings. As I say, Doug did great work setting everything up and actually running this, and he's going to be announcing the winner later on in the meeting. Another sort of activity this year, which kind of built on something that Dorothea Klein, my predecessor as chair, was championing, and we've kind of built on that agenda and actually tried to solidify it a little bit, was creating an equality, diversity and inclusion statement for the group. This was a subcommittee led by Emma Fraser in putting together a kind of an agenda, a mission statement for the group, and hopefully Emma will say a little bit more about that later on. Sorry if I'm dropping you in it there, Emma. It's been in line with the new emphasis on EDI, which has been championed by my colleague at the University of Birmingham, Peter Craftle, in his role of sort of honorary secretary of the RGS of Research and Higher Education Committee. He's been very dedicated to sort of bringing EDI higher up the RGS agenda, just as he's been doing that as actually at Birmingham as chair of our EDI committee here at Brom. So we're absolutely building in EDI considerations to all of our activities. It's a standing item on our committee meetings, and indeed it will be a standing item on the AGM going forward as well. Just sort of reflect that the pandemic has changed a lot of our working practices, and hopefully we are starting to turn a corner now. Some of us are back in work. I was in work this morning, but I've come home this afternoon because I have better lighting here than I do in the office, and I want it to look glamorous for everyone. There's going to be some things where we return to our previous activities. Other elements, I think, obviously, we will retain a kind of online life. What's been really interesting with a lot of research groups over the last sort of 18 months or so has been setting up more kind of informal online activities around networking, support, writing, and careers. And something I'd like to return to in the discussion session later on would be to try and gauge the level of interest for whether we would like to do some similar kinds of events by the DGRG, and what those kind of events might look like. And as well as that, we'd also like to use this discussion period as an opportunity to think about possible themes for the 2022 symposium and other DigiJog sponsored events. So overall, it's been a busy year. I'm really grateful to the committee for incredibly hard work they've been doing. I'm going to embarrass Tess by saying particular thanks to Tess. She's standing down as treasurer this year because of other commitments, including what's the journal again? Your Motion, Space and Society. Motion, Space and Society. And so as a result of that, Tess is sort of overly committed and stepping down as treasurer. Tess has been part of the group since we set up the group, and has a major impact in kind of shaping the organisation and the intellectual agenda that we've had. So her significant contribution to the life of the DigiJogs group is greatly appreciated and will be hugely missed.
I'll pay you later.
Yeah. So now that's it in terms of the sort of formal chair statement. As I say, Samir, I'll pass that along to you, so you don't have to, they didn't have to type my wibblings as we were going along there. But I'd like to now pass over to Tess for the next part of business, which is the Treasurer's report. So over to you, Tess.
Hopefully mine will be a bit shorter because there's not much to say. We haven't really spent any money. And Samir, again, I'll just send you the paperwork I have here, so you can have a little bit of time off too. So the big change that we've had is we are not in control of our money anymore. I know that sounds scary, but we now keep our money with the RGS, which makes life a lot easier, so we don't have to do bank transfers. Everything's all in-house. and hopefully that will continue, because it's really useful whoever the next treasurer is, because you don't have to write the report anymore. It's done for you. So top tips there. So at the beginning of the year, we had about £3,200 in the account. We've had our membership subvention of 255, so that means that our current balance is about £3,500. So we've got money to do fun things in the future if we want to, but we're really pleased to see that the bank account's in a healthy place. And that's pretty much it.
Brilliant, thanks Tess. Obviously, as we go along, if people have any questions they want to raise, it's probably easiest just sticking it in the chat, and Samir can sort of shout up if there's things we need to respond to. And yes, it is excellent news to RT. You're not wrong. We're all quite pleased about that. Just going to pass over now to Godwin for the membership update. If Godwin is here, yes, he is. Excellent.
Sorry, I'm trying to share my screen.
That's okay. We could see it briefly.
You can see. Oh, brilliant. Okay, brilliant. So just a short, brief presentation. Hello, everyone. So for the membership, per the RGS membership records, we have currently this year 81 members. And I tried breaking it down a bit just to find out what actually is happening, but I think there wasn't enough trend here. But I think this year, that is as of August, the time of the analysis. So probably the year hasn't ended. So probably might change slightly, especially with the total number of members per year of election. At the moment, it stands of as of August, it stands at 12, but total is 81. But this is just the breakdown here in terms of the election year. And since the last AGM, there has been a total of 21 per election number of members, and we have like the fellows. We have 3 fellows, and we have 18 postgraduate fellows. And for the joiners and leavers, we have, since the AGM, last AGM, we have 27 leavers and 18 joiners. Those going back, actually, I don't have the data, but I think probably there might be other trends there. But last year, we had 14 leavers and 9 joiners. And I think it was the same as of August this year, 9 joiners. And for the mailing list, we have so far, as of August this year, 68 posted items. There were about 14 sign-offs, and then the additional 38 records added. These are might be slightly different from the when you say you see records here, add records here. It's actually just showing that the people have been added to the list, and it might slightly be different from the official RGS membership records. So basically, that's the brief that I have here. Thanks. Over to you, Phil.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Godwin. So again, sort of a nice sort of healthy trickle up, consistent trickle up in the membership, which is nice to see. Our next item is the postgrad report from Daisy and Jack.
I guess I'll kick it off then. We've had a really positive year this year. We've had lots of engagement from postgrads, both within geography and further afield, which is one of the things that Jack and I were hoping to do right from the beginning, because geography intersects with so many other areas. We've had a few different people engaging with things. We had a successful midterm, as Phil alluded to. We had about 10 digital shorts. So in our midterm, we kind of mirrored the digital short format, and there was 10 people engaged with that, and then there were a number of different people also watching the shorts, so we had good engagement there. I don't know whether you have anything to add on that, Jack.
No, in terms of the midterm, that's pretty much everything about it, but it was a really successful event, and yeah, we did see like really good engagement from postgrads within the research group itself, and maybe that was part of what was reflected in Godwin's stats about the increased postgrad members. So hopefully that's translated quite well. So I suppose we can talk a bit about the work in progress stuff as well. So yeah, so that the idea behind that, as Phil sort of said a little bit about, was to kind of keep more sort of ongoing engagement with the research group, not just with postgrads, but obviously it's a good opportunity for postgrads who are just sort of maybe doing their PhD or just starting a research project to get their work out there. So yeah, so far we've published, how many is it? I think it's 4 or 5 so far, but we've got a lot sort of on the list. Because a lot of people who presented at the midterm and also at the symposium have kindly offered to like let us use their digital shorts from those events for the ongoing program. But I guess this is a good time to kind of say to anyone that's here, please do get in touch with us if you want us to kind of share your early research work via a digital short. It's just a sort of 3 to 5 minute video. You can send it to us in whatever format, and you can send it via, I don't know, any channel really. Daisy might be able to put our email addresses in the chat, or you could just kind of get in touch with the DGRG by whatever channel. And yeah, we'll put your work on the YouTube channel, and it'll be part of the playlist for the work in progress. And yeah, it's just a really good opportunity to kind of share your work, and for us to kind of, yeah, it sort of showcase the breadth of digital geographical research. So yes, that's been really positive. Is there anything else to report postgrad wise? We've been really focused on accessibility as well. I suppose we should probably add that. So yeah, so all the DGRG material that we put on YouTube, we've been really careful to have like accurate subtitling and stuff. And we've been asking people about ideas in terms of how to improve the accessibility as well. And like live captioning, for example, on our events. So if anyone does have any more ideas about that, then let us know.
Brilliant, thanks guys. That's much appreciated. Again, a really exciting and sort of fulsome year of postgrad activities. Next up, Max, are you happy to give a brief sort of events report?
Thanks, Phil. I think firstly, what's really worth mentioning as far as the events are concerned is the conference this year and the amazing work Tess put in towards getting that together, which was unbelievable, and again online, as you said. And secondly, the fact that we've tried to create a series that runs throughout the year with the digital shorts that Jack and Daisy have been really instrumental in sharing, not just on our existing social media, but expanding, as you've mentioned, with YouTube. So that becomes a new way at looking at what events can be, as opposed to consolidating everything with the RGS's symposium and our own. And that's it in brief.
Brilliant, thanks very much, Max. And now we're going to move over to Emma to do just a little update on our sort of where we are with EDI. Obviously, Daisy and Jack have just alluded to that in terms of the sort of live captioning and the subtitling of the work in progress. But Emma, if you could give us just a little update on what we've been doing on EDI this year.
Yeah, absolutely. So we now have an EDI statement. I'll post the link in the chat right now. So this is being drafted. It was based on a kind of, I guess, a template that Dorothea sort of left behind that had happened in consultation. I mean, this is a long time ago, right? So this is probably, I think we started the conversation, I would say we were talking about this in 2019 at least. So it took some time for us to do this. So we set up a committee. We've put the statement together. So Jeremy and I worked on that. Maxwell, you were supposed to work on that with us, and I think I had the wrong email for you. So for sure, if you want to have a look at that and jump in, it has circulated around and been edited. So it's now published on the site. It's a live document. So I think one of the things that we agreed on is that it doesn't make sense to write an EDI statement and then say this is what it will be for the next 5 years or whatever it may be. So it's something that I think should always be in conversation with the membership. So the idea is that we will revisit this pretty regularly and say, actually, is there something that's missing here, something we haven't been attentive to? Does it reflect our focus, or does it need to change in some way? So I think that's basically where it stands. And the idea is that it's partly a statement that in some ways intersects with things like Black Lives Matter and contemporary kind of debates, and this need to kind of, in a way, make a sort of statement of support that's very clear about where your organisation stands, but also a way for us to be held accountable. So the way that Jeremy and I kind of discussed this as well was, how can we have a sense of accountability? So within the statement, it essentially says, these are the things that you can hold us accountable for, and come to us if you feel like we're not kind of fulfilling what we've said in the statement. So so that's the kind of idea, is that it's not simply, you know, that we commit to diversity or inclusion, or that we commit to a sort of list of specific things that we want to aim for, but actually that if we are in some way kind of wanting, or we lose sight of that sense around inclusion, you know, Jack's example of having subtitles and things like that, you know, if someone felt that we were not being inclusive enough around ability, for example, the idea is that people would be able to come to us and say, actually, the statement doesn't reflect this and your practices don't reflect this, and we will always be open to have these conversations and aim to, you know, improve whatever we think. I mean, I say inclusion because I think that we will probably have terms changing over time as well, once the RGS kind of thinks more about their own position towards statements like this as well. So yeah, so that's where it's up to. Feel free, please go and have a look at it, and any sort of comments, questions, things that you think are missing, things that you think we need to address, please, you can contact me, you can contact Phil, you can contact Jeremy, and we can sort of look at that, and we'll revisit it on the committee as well.
And a huge thanks to Emma and Jeremy for basically running with Dorothea's initial initiative and really delivering what I think is it's a fantastic statement, and I'm really excited that it is very much seen as a rolling thing. And as I was saying earlier, we've made EDI a standing item on the agenda now to make sure that we do make sure that we keep revisiting these issues. Emma, I don't know if there's anything you want to, since we've got you there, whether there's anything about the website, or indeed Jeremy, about the social media activities that you want to just have a quick mention of. Sorry to put you on the spot like that.
Yeah, that's fine.
We haven't put anything on it.
No, that's okay. The website is chugging along as it does. If people have things they want me to put on the website, then email me. Usually I try to do it the same day. If I'm very, very busy, it can take, you know, a few days, or some of you will know that, you know, on occasion it takes me a week, just because I have to be on the right computer to do it, because otherwise I have to look for the passwords and it's annoying. But otherwise, yeah, whenever you've got content, if you see anything, for whatever reason, there are always funny little spelling mistakes. I'm not convinced that it doesn't occasionally revert to old versions, and I'm trying to work out if that's something that's actually happening, because I have updated things that have then not been updated. So that's a bit mysterious, but could just be user error. But yeah, anything that you want updating, please just send it to me. I will put my email in the chat in a moment. And the other thing about the website is that, of course, the EDI statement is up there. And I think as far as the digital shorts go as well, you know, we can feature those on the website. So, you know, there's all kinds of room for us to feature things there. And it would be really excellent as well for us to keep updating the resources as well there. But in general, yeah, the website is currently working and functioning as intended and not broken. I'd really love to redesign it, but I have to just leave it. I'm going to leave it. But yeah, so it's fine. But if you do have anything that you need updating, just let me know.
Brilliant. Thanks, Emma. Jeremy, do you want to say anything about the social media feeds?
Sure. I also had an email from Nancy Etlinger, who's I think just able to join us, who had a suggestion about the website. So we can get to that if you like, Nancy. I think she's just joined us in the meeting here.
Yes. Hi, thank you, Jeremy. And so I wanted to ask if this group would be interested in launching a website that would list digital geography scholars from around the world, from underrepresented and minoritized populations, in order to visibilize them. And then departments that are hiring could then access this list towards diversifying their departments. And the source of inspiration for my suggestion is the International Association of Feminist Economists, who launched a website called the DECON database. DECON stands for Diversifying and Decolonizing Economics. And I will put the link to that website in the chat if people are interested.
Fantastic, thanks, Nancy. I mean, that sounds like absolutely a brilliant idea and a great initiative. I wonder, Samir, do you want to stick that as an agenda item for our next committee meeting? And we can come back to that. Dorothea, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, thanks, Jeremy and Nancy, for bringing this up. I think the platforming and visibilizing is a really good idea, and if we can help with that, I think that would be really good. As a sort of small aside, I would just like to say that in the communities that I've been sort of around in terms of kind of global sustainable development connections and so on, there's an ongoing debate also about how can avoid visibilizing, then leading to hiring, then leading to a form of brain drain because of the salary differentials that are really significant. So I think, and maybe in parallel, we can also highlight good practice in, for example, dual appointments. So that's, I think our suggestion shouldn't just be, basically our students need to be kind of exposed to kind of more different forms of knowledges. Wouldn't it be lovely to have a scholar whose voice otherwise wouldn't be heard, to be sort of also engaging with them? I think it's also about creating mobility for ideas and knowledge creation, and that might be multiple appointments, as in individuals carrying several appointments. So I think we may want to document good practice in that as well.
Great stuff, thank you, Dorothea. I mean, again, really interesting issues, and I think we'll pick these up at our next committee meeting to discuss in a bit more detail. Jeremy, had you finished all you wanted to say about the social media?
I'll just put the
Muted,
sorry,
Jeremy.
I see. I didn't unmute myself there. I'll just put the links to our social media in the chat. I did make an Instagram account, but I haven't done very much with it at the moment. So it's mainly the Twitter account and the great new YouTube channel. So I feel that maybe this might be something that other people want to take on, because I don't seem to be able to keep up with things on the social media side quite as much as some of the other people here. So basically, yeah, I'm looking at Twitter, haven't done much with Instagram. And if there's somebody who wants to sort of more formally step into the social media role over the next year or so, or immediately even, that would be fine. I've had some extra things thrown at me at work, so that would be really appreciated. But I have to say that the Twitter's going very well, and I'm not really an Instagram person, so people who are more comfortable with Instagram on their phones maybe want to get that a little bit more lively.
Brilliant, thanks, Jeremy. Well, I'll put that into our election section to see if anybody wants to stand for our social media coordinator. Also, the final bit of reporting is from Doug about the Undergraduate Prize.
Yes, hello. We have one. We have a winner. Thanks to Phil and Emma for also having a look through the submissions. So we've awarded it to a student from UCL called Joe Cappy, who actually wrote his dissertation around. He was looking at social media and dance and how this recreates spaces for dance in London and the way that people interact around dance online, which was very interesting. There is a news story about this written. I was just waiting for a quote from his supervisor to slip into that, so I could send it over to you, Emma, to put on the website. And there's a few graphics for Jeremy or whoever to put on Twitter once we have a news story to link to. So that's all in play. I was just waiting for his supervisor to get back from holiday to add a quick quote into there if she can. I think it's probably interesting to note that it was a small number of entries this year, which I think we were expecting. I think we probably should be aware that I believe all of our entries were from the Russell Group, which we know that's going to happen. I was particularly struck that not a single entry was submitted by a lecturer. Every entry is submitted by an administrator for their course, which I find particularly galling as I work in a university that has no course administrators whatsoever. And this is an issue. So I this year probably need to think about how much work it is for someone to put the entry in. The RGS have their sort of set of rules, but we might be able to work within those to make it a little easier for someone who hasn't got an administrator to compile everything, to put in something which might broaden out who's entering. But anyway, we've got one this year, and we can use that news story to help advertise the coming year and hopefully snowball it up a little bit more.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Doug, and thanks for the hard work in coordinating all this and putting it together, because it was really exciting seeing the entries and actually having to read them. There were some really cracking projects in there.
Some really nice entries, and it's something I like better than reading hundreds of dissertations every summer, so it's quite nice.
And obviously, and that brings the sort of the next point up, which is, if there are people who are keen to get involved with the reading of the dissertations and helping in the kind of the scoring process, I have to say, between the three of us that read them this summer, we very easily came to a consensus of which was the strongest of the projects. So there wasn't a huge amount of debate in the end. But it would be nice to have more voices, as it were, in that conversation. So if people are keen to get involved, then please just let us know. So that's sort of the end of the reporting. The next phase is the elections. As I say, this is partly a product of the fact that Tess is stepping down as treasurer. So we have a vacancy for treasurer. Now, this was, we did advertise this on CritJog and the Dgrg's mailing list. We have one nomination for treasurer at the moment, but obviously there's the opportunity to self-nominate in the room. If there are any other nominations for treasurer beyond that of Godwin. And not currently. Godwin, do you want to say just a little bit about yourself for the membership, just to get a sense of who you are and why you might make a good treasurer? Just for a minute or so.
That's interesting. Yeah, on the spot. Yeah, my name is Godwin Yabour. I'm a senior research fellow at the Institute for Global Sustainable Development, based at the University of Warwick. I have served as a committee member for various RGS subgroups, GIS research, GIS science group, and currently I'm a part of the committee member in this group, and I'm a membership secretary. So when I got to know that Tess was stepping down, I volunteered to step in if there aren't any interest. So I'm still open, really, because I'm already on the committee and as a membership secretary. So if there aren't any, then I'm willing to step in. I've not been a treasurer before, so I'm just coming in fresh. Certainly, I might ask some questions from Tess, but I think it's something that I think I should be able to handle. If there are any problems, then there are past members who I can consult, and of course, Dorothy and Phil, they're all here, and all of you, I mean. So it's not a big deal, but I think my pitch is a bit here and there, but I think I've done my best.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, Godwin. What we normally do in these circumstances, if we have a face-to-face AGM, is we would ask candidates to leave the room. But obviously we can't so easily do that in this format. But Godwin, if you would mind, taking your headset off, and I'll give you a wave when we finish the discussion, if that's okay with you. While Godwin is away, just does anybody have any particular objections to Godwin being confirmed as treasurer? Broad shakes of the head, nothing in the chat. So I think we can say, maybe someone could post in the chat, Godwin, come back in. And I think we're all happy. So brilliant, Godwin, thank you very much, and congratulations on your election as treasurer. Well done. Looking forward to serving with you. This creates a vacancy as the membership secretary, and so it's really a case of whether there's anybody on the call who feels that who's been getting interested in working with the committee and would perhaps like to step into the role of membership secretary. As I'm sure Godwin would say, it's not the most demanding of committee roles, but it gives you a good opportunity to kind of get to grips with some of the RGS processes and some good experience. So it's a nice way of coming on to the committee. So is there anybody who's interested in kind of stepping into a committee role at this phase? Otherwise we'll be sort of harassing people and trying to co-opt people. Harrison, excellent. So we've won self-nomination for Harrison. Is there anybody else who would be interested in stepping into that position? Okay, general shakes of the head, I respect that. So Harrison, do you want to tell the committee a little bit about yourself, just a minute of yourself and why you might want to stand for this role?
Sure. Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Harrison. I am a lecturer in Digital Media and Society at the University of Sheffield in the Department of Sociological Studies. I've been particularly interested in understanding the spatial aspects of digital media and wireless telecommunication, and that's how I sort of got interested in the Digital Geographies research group. And I was helping out this summer with helping Tess out organize the symposium. And I'd like to continue to step up if I could. So I'd be very interested in helping in any way that I could. Thank you. Brilliant.
Thanks, Harrison. So if there are no other nominations, I think we'll do the same again. So if Harrison, you could, take your headset off and we'll give you a wave. So does anybody, have any objections to the election of Harrison as membership secretary? General shakes of the head and nothing in the chat. So let's go with great, brilliant. So congratulations, thanks Harrison, and congratulations on your election to this role. So that's what we were expecting in terms of committee roles. But obviously, Jeremy has expressed an interest in perhaps stepping back his responsibilities for social media coordination. So it's a question of whether there's anybody here who would like to step into the committee to take on that role. If not, we will we'll distribute it around the existing committee. Favilla has self-nominated. Brilliant. Would you like to give us a sort of a minute to tell us a little bit about yourself and why you might be interested in taking on the role?
Hello, can you hear me? Hi, yeah, so my name is Vivila. I am recently a doctor in geography. I say recently, but it's been a year, really. Well, my work in the RGS I was inclusivity officer for the postgraduate forum in 2017/18. So that was my kind of more admin work for the RGS or RGS related. Otherwise, that's it. I am a social media animal, like personally. So yeah, that'll be great. Great experience.
All right, brilliant. Well, thanks, Avila. We've got no other nominations on the chat, so can we do the same thing? If you could take your headset off, and I'll wave at you when we've had the conversation. Would anybody have any objections to Avila coming in and taking over the role in terms of social media coordinator for the group? I'm sure Jeremy has no objections to it at all. All right, brilliant. Well, fantastic. Let's come back in. This sort of just, yeah, brilliant. Yes, excellent. So congratulations, Avila. We're really, really pleased that you could step into that role, particularly with no notice at all. So that's absolutely brilliant. We will, I think, unfortunately, Samir's dropped off the call, so we will sort of fiddle with the paperwork. In terms of things like nominators and seconders, sort of after the fact, the sort of formal things that the RGS requires us to do, but you know, life's a little bit too short to bother about that in a meeting. So that's sort of the end of the sort of the formal business. So thanks again to Jeremy for his excellent sterling work as social media coordinator over the years, and indeed to Tess as treasurer, and you know, I'm stepping down, deserved a little bit of time away from having to spend so much energy on this group.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Yeah, I know you're still here. You can go now. Go on out. So the last sort of bit of the meeting, and thanks Emma for highlighting that. That was a useful thing in the chat. The last bit of the meeting is a sort of more free discussion, and a couple of things that I sort of wanted to use this time for, but obviously it's also for other people to chip in with things they want to talk about as well. And that I think probably the main thing was sort of to harvest ideas for the 2022 symposium, and to think about whether we want to do these more sort of informal online coffee morning type events that some of the other research groups have been doing, and if we do want to do that, what kind of activities we'd like to wrap into those events. But why don't we talk about the symposium first? Emma, go ahead.
I don't really know exactly how we turn this into an idea, but I have had in the last couple of weeks some really interesting conversations about digital geographies and actually questions around inclusion, and talking about how, because it's a relatively new field, how we can kind of, it's partly this kind of question of getting voices kind of elevated that maybe we're not hearing. So people who've been in digital geographies for a while, you'll know that there are kind of the usual suspects who are all amazing people and they do great research. None of some of the usual suspects are not necessarily here and engaged in this group either. But for people coming up, it can be quite difficult to kind of break through and get involved in things other than this group, which we do get feedback all the time. You know, the RGS, for example, is actually pretty inclusive. So I think it could be interesting to try and think how we might do, particularly if it's going to be a more informal event that becomes a kind of discussion about kind of making space for a variety of people and voices and discussions and areas of study and something like that, sort of like an opening up the field kind of themed event. But by all means, that might just be a terrible idea. But that was just something that it just is a conversation I know is happening because it keeps coming to me. I'm also on the DGFG, which is the Digital Geography Specialties Group for the AAG here in the States as well. So this is stuff that I know is just circulating. So sort of what sort of form that would take, and whether we've got better themed ideas that might attract more people, I'm not sure. But that's just something that I know is a conversation that's happening. So.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Emma. And you're right, that it's a dead interesting area. He said, lapsing into northernisms for a moment. So yeah, I think I know Tess is stepping in for Samir, taking notes at the moment, which is above and beyond the call of duty. But Dorothea, you've got your hand up.
Yes, I think this is obviously a really good idea. I think it also chimes with some of the things that Nancy was saying, and I also wanted to highlight that when we're going to have this the session later on, where we were going to have hearing from the specialty group with Matt kind of talking about it, and Phil will be representing our group. And then also the German Netzwerk für digitale Geographie, and Prince Guma will be kind of talking about some of the networks of digital geographers in East Africa and the networks there. I think there are sort of multiple conversations there that could be carried on, and just in that session, we're going to be asking people to comment on how they're tackling questions of inclusion and diversity and so forth in their groups. So apart from this being an obvious plug to come to this session, it's also just a pointer that I think we might be in a position to learn there from what the practices are across groups. And yeah, and I think it's a really important conversation. I really don't know where this conversation is going to go when we hear from the different groups. I think there are some critical observations that you alluded to, where I think digital geographies needs to also kind of reflect on its own reproduction of uneven knowledge practices. And I'm hoping that we can, further that conversation, and it might make it easier when we do that across groups, the way that you mentioned, Emma, because it's then, it's kind of like it's a joint challenge for multiple groups, and it might be that we can learn from each other. So, in other words, Phil will be there. I'll be there. There might be some others there. There might be some things that can come out of that session that can kind of also then carry forward. Or indeed, Phil could cleverly say, and by the way, we are considering having such an event in the future as a way that we can spin out of this session a future event. I'm just trying to connect the dots.
Brilliant, thanks, Dorothea. Does anybody else want to come in at this point of possible symposium themes? Or indeed just any other event themes? If not, then it would be quite nice to see whether there would be an appetite for doing these sort of more informal events. I'd say a lot of the RGS groups have been doing these, 11 o'clock on a Thursday, come in, have coffee with, the Gender and Feminist Geographies research group team, for example. A bunch of the different groups have been doing slightly more informal events, sometimes with different themes. So, kind of sort of things on networking, on writing, on careers and that kind of thing. Whether there would be an appetite within the Digital Jogs group to run these kind of events, and if so, what kinds of topic areas or sort of activities to cover within them. If not, it's something we'll just kick to the committee meeting, to the next committee meeting to chat about. Emma.
Sorry, I have an opinion again. I'm just wondering, I think it's potentially a really great idea, but I wonder if it would be something to do sort of in a year or two once we've kind of recovered from the COVID fallout, in a sense. And once we've built, I think we can build our membership numbers, pretty solidly. Sorry to chuck you in it, Harrison. I think you're the new membership person. But I think we can consistently build them, because when we were meeting in person, we could get quite a bit of buzz at the RGS, actually. People really just sort of seem to be enjoying the group, and we've lost some of that momentum, perhaps. And then once we had a more of a kind of critical mass of members, I think that kind of event, I'm guessing our membership's a bit less than something like the Gender and Women's group or whatever. More established groups have larger memberships. So I wonder, because I think my experience with organising events like this, where you have a sort of semi-regular informal thing, is that the first two are like really great and everyone feels awesome, and then they just peter off and it's a bit like, you know, it's a bit of a waste of the effort because not everybody keeps coming. But when you've got a large enough membership, I reckon you need about 150 people, and this is from all my long event experience, and someone like Tess, who I know has done a lot of events, may have a ballpark figure in her head as well, I don't know. But once you've got about 150 people to draw from, you can consistently get 6, 7, 10. But if you've got less than that, it can really be like 2 committee members and sort of nobody else. So that would just be my kind of common sense on that. But for sure, you know, if anyone disagrees with me, definitely go for it. I think as far as inclusivity, it can be quite beneficial because people can just drop in. But it's just whether we want to put the work in when we're a bit probably stretched a bit thin, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was definitely the feeling of the other groups who've done this, where they might have one or two events which are very well attended, and others it might just be a couple of committee members going, oh, well, let's have coffee then. So I think it's certainly something which we can kick for further consideration. I think, again, I'm sort of enthused it's a nice idea, but I'm also aware of the amount of work it takes to do such things. A nice suggestion from Dorothea in the chat though around social media to amplify more marginalised voices, which I think is a lovely idea.
I mean, the other thing, just to very quickly jump in, the other thing is going off Dorothea's suggestion, we could just pick like 2 coffee topics, not do a whole series, and pick a time that we know is quieter, because there are times in the British, you know, academic calendar that we know are going to be not as busy as others. So it could be that where it's like a sort of around a holiday-ish break or around a definite kind of quiet time. If we want to explore particular themes, I think that also kind of makes sense. So not to like, yeah, preclude, you know, Dorothea's suggestion at all.
I love the idea of doing a little bit of pilot work in effect. I think that's really nice. Anybody else have anything they want to come in on beyond, well, including on this sort of more informal thing, but and other issues around digital geographies research group that people would like to weigh in on? Well, we've got a few minutes left in our allotted time. So any other issues that people want to raise? That's usually the opportunity to kill a conversation stone dead, which
you're doing well.
Oh, well, I'm an expert in these things. Brilliant. Well, we've got a couple of things being flagged up. Gillian's lecture tonight, and obviously Dorothea has already you know, flagged up the origin myth of digital geographies session, which I think is I think it's at 3, isn't it? Please tell me it's at 3. Yes, good. I will be there on time then. Okay, well, why don't we wrap this up? Thanks again to everybody for coming along and supporting the group today. And obviously, big thanks to the committee for all the hard work, including those committee members who are, you know, calling it quits on their particular roles at this moment. So, thanks everyone. It's been a really interesting chat. We will put the recording of this somewhere, probably on our YouTube channel, since we've had requests for a recording of the today's meeting. Yeah, and we'll probably put we'll collate the chat into our AGM minutes, which will be available on our website relatively shortly. So thanks again, everyone. Let's call it here, and say, you know, see you again soon.